During a live television appearance, Serena Williams was caught completely off guard when she received a deeply emotional message from Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré. What was meant to be a light conversation quickly turned into a heartfelt moment that brought the tennis legend to tears. Viewers were left stunned, and the internet hasn't stopped talking about the sincerity and power behind Traoré's words. The studio lights were bright, the audience buzzing with excitement. Serena Williams had agreed to a special live television interview, expected to be a fun, light-hearted chat about her retirement, family life, and future projects. Everything was going smoothly until the host paused, holding an earpiece with a curious smile. "Serena, we have a special surprise guest who wanted to send you a message." The big screen behind her flickered, and suddenly the face of President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso appeared. Serena blinked in shock, sitting up straighter. The audience gasped. This was not in the script. Traoré greeted her warmly. "Madam Serena, you may not know me personally, but your story has reached my heart and the hearts of my people." The room grew silent, the excitement melting into curiosity. Serena smiled politely, not yet realizing how deeply his words would cut into her soul. "Today," Traoré continued softly, "I wish to speak not to the champion the world knows, but to the woman who carried the weight of dreams." Serena's eyes widened. Something in his tone told her this was about to get very real. The host leaned back, sensing the gravity of the moment. The crowd, usually lively, was completely still. Traoré's voice was calm, but filled with emotion. "Serena, I come from a land where young girls watch you play on old television sets, sometimes in crowded rooms with only one working antenna. They see you, a woman who looks like them, holding trophies the world said she could never hold. And in that moment, they believe." Serena's lips trembled. She wasn't expecting this. She glanced down briefly, blinking rapidly to keep the tears from spilling. Traoré continued, his tone unwavering. "I wanted you to know that when you fought on the court, you were not fighting for titles alone. You were carrying millions who had never been given permission to dream." The audience sat frozen, many already wiping their eyes. Serena finally raised her hand to her face, her chest rising and falling heavily. The host whispered almost in disbelief, This is powerful." Serena could no longer smile. Her eyes were already filled with tears. She was fighting hard to hold back. As the studio lights dimmed slightly to focus on the screen, Traoré leaned forward, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Serena, when a girl in Burkina Faso picks up a tennis racket carved from wood, she does it because she believes she can be like you. But what I admire most is not the trophies. It is that you never gave up even when the world tried to break you. That is leadership. That is strength." The words pierced Serena's heart. She pressed her fingers against her lips, trying to compose herself, but it was too late. A single tear rolled down her cheek, and then another. The audience watched in stunned silence. The camera zoomed in, capturing the raw vulnerability of a woman the world had always seen as unshakable. Finally, Serena whispered, her voice trembling, I don't know what to say." Traoré gave a gentle nod. "You don't have to say anything. Just know you have given hope where there was none." The crowd erupted into emotional applause. The internet would soon explode with this clip, but in that moment, only the sincerity of his words mattered. For a long moment after Traoré's last words, the studio was silent. Serena sat frozen, clutching a tissue handed to her by the host. She finally managed a shaky breath. "Mr. President," she whispered, "I never thought my story reached that far. To little girls in villages I've never been to." Her voice broke, and she pressed a hand to her chest. Traoré's eyes softened. "It did, Serena. And not just in my country, across Africa, across the world. You became proof that struggle is not the end. It is a beginning of greatness." The crowd erupted into quiet claps, but quickly hushed, afraid to disturb the intimacy of the moment. Serena tried to compose herself, but the weight of his words pressed too heavily. "All my life I just wanted to play tennis, but I didn't know I was carrying so many hearts with me." Traoré nodded. "That is the beauty of true greatness. You inspire without even knowing." At that instant, millions watching from home felt chills. Something unforgettable had just begun. The host clearly moved, leaned closer, and asked Traoré, "Mr. President, what made you want to share this message today?" Traoré took a deep breath, because I know what it means to feel invisible. My people fight every day for dignity, often unnoticed by the world. When we saw Serena standing strong against doubt, it told us we too could stand. The audience was visibly shaken. Serena's tears flowed freely now. She looked up at the screen, her voice trembling. You don't know how many nights I cried, wondering if I could go on. To hear you say this, it feels like all that pain had a purpose. Trey leaned forward, his tone almost fatherly. Your pain became our courage, Serena, and courage is more powerful than victory. The crowd gasped softly, and several people dabbed their own eyes. The cameras captured Serena's tear-streaked face, and in that moment, she was no longer a champion being interviewed. She was a human being, touched to her very core. The interview, meant to last 30 minutes, had already run over time. But no one in the studio or watching at home wanted it to end. Serena, still holding the tissue, looked straight at Trey. Mr. President, I don't know what to say except thank you. You reminded me why I fought so hard. Trey gave her a gentle smile. And I thank you, Serena. One day, I hope you will visit Burkina Faso so our daughters can look into your eyes and know their dreams are real. The studio audience erupted in applause, many on their feet. Serena covered her face with her hands, overcome. I promise, she whispered, her voice cracking. I will come. The host, visibly emotional, closed the segment by saying, Ladies and gentlemen, this was not just an interview. This was history. Outside the studio, the world was already exploding with reactions. Clips of Serena's tears and Trey's words were spreading like wildfire, igniting conversations in every corner of the globe. And this was only the beginning. Within minutes of the broadcast ending, clips of Serena wiping her tears and True's heartfelt words went viral. Hashtags like Cries, Serena, and Trey and Chahope in Burkina Faso began trending worldwide. On Twitter, one user wrote, I just watched Serena Williams break down on live TV because of President Traoré's words. I've never seen anything so raw and real. Instagram flooded with short reels showing the moment Serena whispered, I promise I will come. Millions liked, commented, and shared, saying they were in tears watching it. But while the internet buzzed, Serena sat quietly in her hotel room, replaying the moment in her head. She whispered to her sister Venus, I've won championships, but nothing ever touched me like this. It felt like God spoke through him. Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, ordinary citizens gathered around televisions in cafes and homes, watching their president's message sweep across the world. Some cried openly, whispering, Finally, they see us. It was no longer just an interview. It was becoming a movement. The next morning, Serena's phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, celebrities, and even former rivals called to tell her how much the interview had touched them. But the call that broke her heart came from a little girl in Africa arranged by the TV station. Her name was Awa from a small village in Burkina Faso. Her voice was shy but steady. Miss Serena, I saw you cry. I want to be like you. My racket is only wood, but I play every day. Serena's eyes filled instantly. She pressed the phone to her chest for a moment before replying, her voice trembling. Awa, you keep playing and I promise you I'll come and meet you. There was silence on the other end, then a small sob of joy. Thank you. Thank you. As the call ended, Serena collapsed into tears. She realized this was no longer about her career. It was about hope planted in the hearts of children she had never met. Meanwhile, Traoré received word of the call and whispered to his aides, This is why I spoke. So their voices could reach her heart. That evening, Serena and President Traoré had a private video call away from cameras and reporters. Serena appeared with tired eyes, but a warm smile. Mr. President, I don't know how to thank you, she began softly. You made me realize my journey was never just mine. Traoré leaned closer to the camera, his expression calm yet firm. Serena, the trophies will one day gather dust, but the hope you place in the hearts of millions will never fade. That is your true legacy. Her lips trembled again. Do you know what people are saying online? They are calling you the most genuine leader they've ever seen. He smiled faintly. Let them not remember me, but the dreams of Awa and every child like her. That is all I ask. Serena nodded, tears streaming once more. Then let's make it happen. Let's make their dreams real. The call ended with both of them wiping their eyes in silence. Neither knew it yet, but the world was waiting for the next step together. The clip of Serena's tearful reaction reached over 100 million views within 2 days. Talk shows replayed the moment. Newspapers carried headlines like Serena Williams brought to tears by Ibrahim Traoré's emotional message. Celebrities posted their reactions online. One actor wrote, "I've never cried watching an interview before. What a moment of truth." But what touched Serena the most were the thousands of messages from ordinary people. Mothers, daughters, athletes, and even young boys wrote things like, "I finally believe I can chase my dream." In Burkina Faso, families gathered around radios and small TVs, their hearts swelling with pride. Many whispered, "Our president made the world hear us." Meanwhile, Serena sat by her hotel window, staring out at the night sky. She whispered softly to herself, maybe this is the beginning of something bigger than me." And for the first time since retirement, she felt her journey wasn't over. The following morning, Serena received a call from her agent. "Serena, listen, the president's team has reached out. They want to know if you consider visiting Burkina Faso." Her breath caught already. "Yes, and Serena, millions online are begging you to go. They say it would mean the world." Serena placed a hand over her heart, remembering the voice of little Awa. She whispered, "Tell them, yes, I'll come." At the same time, in Ouagadougou, True sat with his aides. "If she comes, it must not be about politics. It must be about the children," he said firmly. "Let her see the hope she has planted." The announcement leaked to the press that Serena might visit Burkina Faso. The internet exploded again. Hashtags like Serena in Burkina trended worldwide. People didn't just want an event, they wanted a miracle. In the days that followed, the world held its breath. News stations ran countdowns to Serena's rumored trip. Social media was filled with emotional posts from African children holding handmade tennis rackets, smiling shyly at the camera with captions like, "Waiting for you, Serena." Serena prepared quietly, packing not just clothes, but dozens of rackets and tennis balls. She told her sister Venus, "This isn't a trip. This is a calling." Meanwhile, President Traoré addressed a small gathering in his office. "This is not about fame. This is about reminding the world that even in the smallest village, dreams are alive." As the plane tickets were confirmed, Serena sat on her bed holding the wooden racket a fan had sent her years ago. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm coming, Awa. I'm coming." And as the week moved toward its climax, the world prepared for a moment that would touch every heart on earth. The sun was setting when Serena's plane touched down in Ouagadougou. Crowds had already gathered at the airport, waving flags of Burkina Faso and holding signs that read, "Welcome, Serena, and our dreams live because of you." As she stepped off the plane, tears filled her eyes. Children lined the pathway, many holding handmade rackets carved from wood. Their smiles were wide, their eyes full of awe. President Ibrahim Traoré was waiting with his signature calm smile. He extended his hand, but instead of a formal shake, Serena hugged him tightly, unable to hold back her emotion. "Thank you for bringing me here," she whispered. Traoré nodded softly. "No, Serena, thank you for coming." The crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed. But for Serena, it wasn't about the spectacle. It was about the little girl in the front row holding a racket almost as big as her body. That girl's eyes shone with hope, and Serena knew at once it was Awa. Later that evening in a small community center, Serena finally met Awa. The little girl wore a simple white dress and held her wooden racket proudly. Serena knelt down, tears blurring her vision. "Awa, is that you?" Awa nodded, her tiny voice trembling. "Yes, Miss Serena." Serena pulled her into a tight embrace, sobbing softly. The entire room fell silent, many people wiping their own tears. Traoré stood quietly in the background, watching the moment unfold with deep emotion. "I brought you something," Serena said, reaching into her bag. She handed Awa a brand-new tennis racket, shining in the dim light. Awa gasped, holding it as if it were a treasure. "Now you'll play with this, and one day I'll sit in the stands and watch you win," Serena whispered. Awa's eyes glistened. "I promise, Miss Serena. I will." The crowd broke into applause. Even President Traoré's eyes shone with tears. It was a moment that no one in that room would ever forget. The next day, a massive gathering was held in Ouagadougou's main square. Thousands came to see Serena and President Traoré stand side by side. Serena, holding Awa's hand, stepped up to the microphone. She looked at the sea of faces, her voice breaking. I came here thinking I was retired, but now I know my journey has just begun. Because this isn't about me. It's about every little girl who dares to dream. The crowd roared with emotion. Many cried openly. Then Traoré took the microphone, his voice steady and full of warmth. The world saw Serena cry, but today we see her stand. And in her strength, our children see their future. Serena squeezed a hand. The cheers grew louder, echoing across the city. That night, news outlets worldwide carried the story. Serena and Traoré inspired millions in Burkina Faso. But for Serena, the highlight was simple. Awa smiling up at her, whispering, "Thank you for coming." She knew then her tears had been worth it. On her third day in Burkina Faso, Serena organized a small tennis match for the children of Ouagadougou. The court was simple. Chalk lines on the ground, a net strung between two wooden poles, but the excitement was electric. Awa stepped onto the court holding the new racket Serena had given her. The crowd cheered as Serena tied a ribbon in Awa's hair and whispered, "This is your moment." The children played with joy, chasing every ball with laughter and determination. Serena stood on the sidelines, tears streaming down her face as she clapped for each point. President Traoré leaned over and said softly, "Do you see Serena? This is hope taking shape." She nodded, unable to speak. For the first time in years, she wasn't watching a tennis match. She was watching the birth of dreams. By the end, the entire crowd was chanting Awa's name. Awa, grinning ear to ear, raised her racket in triumph. Serena covered her mouth, whispering, "She's going to change the world." That evening, Serena and President Traoré sat together under the starry sky. The air was calm, filled with distant sounds of drums and laughter from the city square. "Mr. President," Serena said quietly, "I thought my career ended when I left the court, but today you showed me it was only beginning." Traoré smiled warmly. "True greatness doesn't end when the game ends. It begins when you give your victory to others." Serena wiped away a tear. "You've changed me. I'll never forget this." He placed a hand over his heart. "And we will never forget you." The two sat in silence watching the stars. In that moment, it wasn't about politics or fame. It was about the bond between two souls who believed in the power of hope. Later that night, Serena posted a photo of Awa holding her new racket. Her caption read, "This week, I found my purpose again. Thank you, Burkina Faso. Thank you, President Traoré." The post went viral instantly, breaking records worldwide. On her final day, Serena prepared to leave Burkina Faso. At the airport, thousands gathered again, waving flags and singing. Awa clung to her hand, refusing to let go. Serena knelt, tears falling freely. "Awa, remember what I told you. Keep playing, and when you win your first championship, I'll be there." Awa nodded, her small voice firm. "I promise, Miss Serena." President Traoré approached, embracing Serena like a sister. "You didn't just visit us. You became one of us," he said softly. Serena whispered back, "And you reminded me what true leadership looks like." As she boarded the plane, the crowd erupted in cheers, chanting her name and waving goodbye. Serena looked out the window, her heart full, knowing this was not the end, but the beginning of something far greater. Across the world, news outlets declared a message of hope. Traoré and Serena inspired a generation. And now, dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, if it made you cry, smile, or believe in hope again, don't just leave quietly. Hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what part moved you the most. Because together, just like Serena and Tro, we can keep the flame of hope alive. And